Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another hugely important video update tonight. So obviously the massive news of this week that, of course, the mainstream media, at least here in Australia, is not talking about is the fact that the World Health Assembly chose to actually adopt that WHO pandemic agreement that I've been speaking about on the last few videos. Now, it is interesting to note that one of the very few mainstream media articles that did actually report on this, of course, came out of the US, who have obviously chosen to withdraw from the WHO. Now, I did have that article ready to read out. My printer's played up and I don't actually have it, but you can look it up online. It's actually a Reuters media article where they talk about that and the implications of what may happen to that pandemic treaty, given that the US, being one of the major contributors, has actually chosen to withdraw from it. So it may not have the force and effect that they are hoping. Now, the bigger problem that we have right here in Australia is that we are dealing with an absolute traitor in the way of this Mark Butler MP, who has travelled to Geneva on taxpayers' funds and voted apparently on our behalf without ever actually asking us, we the people, what we want. Now, again, I take this opportunity to remind you all that it is we, the people of the Commonwealth of Australia, that are the supreme, absolute, uncontrollable authority. Now, of course, that comes directly out of the Quick-and-Garran Annotated Constitution, which again is accepted by the courts here in Australia as the authority on the Constitution. So what this guy has done is absolutely reprehensible, and he must be held to account for this. So as always, I urge you all, please put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, however works best for you. And please write to this guy, this MP, Mark Butler, going, where on earth did you get the authority from the people, we the people of the Commonwealth of Australia, to vote yes to this pandemic treaty with the WHO? Now, whilst that is obviously very concerning and very worrying, it's not all bad news, so don't panic just yet, because the WHO actually even admit right now on their website that it does not give them, the passing of this pandemic treaty does not give them the ability to alter the laws of the participating nations. So here's the wording, and you can look this up for yourselves. This is straight off the WHO website. And this is the title. It says, World Health Assembly adopts historic pandemic agreement to make the world more equitable and safer from future pandemics. Blah, 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 blah. Member states of the World Health Organization, WHO, today formally adopted, by consensus, the world's first pandemic agreement. Regarding national sovereignty, the agreement states that nothing in the WHO pandemic agreement shall be interpreted as providing the Secretariat of the World Health Organization, including the Director General of the World Health Organization, any authority to direct, order, alter or otherwise prescribe the national and or domestic law as appropriate or policies of any party, or to mandate or otherwise impose any requirements that parties take specific actions, such as ban or accept travellers, impose vaccination mandates, or therapeutic or diagnostic measures, or implement lockdowns. So that is very clearly spelled out on their website. So I do urge you to go and read that. So that is the little tiny skerrick of good news that we have from that is what they're saying. Now, unfortunately, it's not all good news, because as we covered on this week's radio show, that legislation that allows for those things already actually exists right now here in Australia. There is already a mechanism to allow some foreign entity to make those kind of demands or dictates upon our government. And that legislation must be formally challenged. Now, we had a very, very detailed, in-depth discussion on that section of legislation on Tuesday night's radio show and exactly what people need to do to challenge it. So please make sure, if you didn't hear that radio show broadcast live, make sure that you listen to the podcast. It has been uploaded now for all members to listen to, because it is so important, and we really need to knock that out before the next pandemic happens. Okay, we've got to get onto this now and ensure that we are protected for the future. Now, speaking of pandemics, we also mentioned on Tuesday night's radio show about the $12.7 million payout that a lady in the US received after she was unlawfully fired for refusing to take the jab. And now, right here in Australia, we're facing a somewhat similar situation where Qantas is actually under serious fire and actually facing a very significant fine for the actions that they took during that so-called pandemic time. So this is a story that we're going to be following very closely, and we urge all of our viewers to look up and follow. It is entitled, Qantas faces a record fine over illegal outsourcing of 1,800 jobs during COVID pandemic. Qantas is facing the final verdict over its decision to illegally outsource 1,800 ground handling jobs during the COVID pandemic. On Monday, a hearing began at Sydney's Federal Court to determine the fine for Australia's flagship airline following 4.5 years of legal battles. In 2021, Justice Michael Lee ruled that Qantas's decision to outsource those jobs in August of 2020 was primarily intended to prevent employees from taking protected industrial action once travel resumed, and therefore had breached the Fair Work Act. Now, Qantas appealed against that decision to the full court of the Federal Court, which unanimously upheld the original ruling. And again, we've covered all of this on previous updates. The airline then appealed to the High Court, which also sided with the Transport Workers Union, which of course the TWU, confirming that the outsourcing was unlawful. So the TWU's National Secretary Michael Caine said this legal battle was a long time coming, but was now nearing an end. The union is calling for the maximum penalty of $121 million, aiming to hold the airline accountable for the harm caused. We have to send a very clear, strong signal to Qantas and every other company in Australia that this can never, ever happen again to any Australian worker, Caine said. For former Qantas employees, the company's decision during the pandemic took a toll on their lives. The national carrier has already been ordered to pay $120 million in compensation to unlawfully outsourced workers. This was decided in October 2023 by Lee to cover economic loss, pain and suffering. Lee is now expected to deliver his final verdict after the 3-day hearing concludes, with lawyers for Qantas and the TWU presenting their closing arguments. So, yeah, watch this space. This is a very interesting case, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. But again, this needs to be finalised ASAP so that the corporations and the governments around this country understand that there absolutely are ramifications for their actions, and they have absolutely no place playing with people's lives and making decisions about their health, telling them what they must or should be putting into their bodies. Now, speaking of holding corporations and governments accountable, it really is time that we all finally took a stand and really started to fight back against the constant erosion of speed limits around this country, which all exist purely to raise revenue, as I've covered many times before. Now, I've spoken about this practice of systematically reducing speed limits, which were already arbitrarily set in the first place and then artificially lowered anyway, but they are just simply taking things to a whole new level in their never-ending hunger for more revenue. So, what's happening right now is in WA, they're now proposing, completely pointless 40 kilometre an hour zones where they just simply are not needed. So this was sent through to us from one of our members, and this is off the WA transport site. And this is what they're talking about. Expansion of the City of Perth 40 kilometre an hour speed zone. Why is the City of Perth considering expanding the 40 kilometre an hour speed zone? The main goal is safety. Excuse me. Lower speeds reduce the severity of crashes and create calmer streets. Okay. Making the city safer for everyone, whether walking, cycling or driving. Why are people walking or cycling on the road where the cars are? There's your fundamental problem, not the speeds. Get the walkers and the cyclists off the road where the cars are. That's a very simple solution. A slower, more predictable traffic flow also supports a pedestrian-friendly urban environment, encouraging more people to explore the city on foot. Again, explore the city on foot all you like, on the footpath. Don't walk out on the road. It's not rocket science. This, in turn, helps to build a more vibrant, inclusive and sustainable Perth. Well, what has that got to do with anything? Walk on the footpath, drive on the road. End of story. While the speed limit in central Perth and Northbridge streets is 40 kilometres an hour, other neighbourhoods in the city have a default speed limit of 50 kilometres an hour. You know, like most neighbourhoods anywhere else around the country. This is considered too fast, all of a sudden, for areas with a high presence of vulnerable pedestrians and cyclists. Again, here's a clue. They wouldn't be vulnerable if they weren't on the road. By reducing this to 40 kilometres an hour, we can significantly improve road safety for all road users. Again, if they're not walking and cycling on the road, how's it going to make any difference? Lowering the speed allows drivers more time to react to unexpected situations, such as pedestrians crossing the road or children playing nearby. Again, the children should be playing in the park, the pedestrians should be walking on the footpath, and the cars should be driving on the road. It's really not hard to separate people. We've managed to do it for the last 200 odd years. Why 40 kilometres an hour? Studies show that lower speeds significantly reduce the severity of injuries in crashes. Pedestrians and cyclists have a much higher chance of survival when impacts occur at lower speeds. And they spout all the figures with their beautiful little pie charts. 10% chance of death or severe injury at 30 kilometres an hour, which increases to 30% chance of death or severe injury at 40 kilometres an hour, and 85% chance of death or severe injury at 50 kilometres an hour. Now, maybe it's just me. Maybe some of you watching this have seen a similar thing. But I've found that there's pretty much a zero chance of death or serious injury. Again, when you don't walk in front of cars that are moving at any speed. Whether it be 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Just don't walk where the cars are. Pretty basic stuff. Why not 30 kilometres an hour? Exactly. Why not 20? Why not 10? While 30 kilometres an hour is ideal for maximising safety, 40 kilometres an hour is a significant step forward from the current 50 kilometre an hour limit. Reducing the speed to 40 kilometres an hour across local streets in Perth will effectively reduce the risk of serious injuries and fatalities. While 30 kilometres an hour could be considered for high-risk areas, 40 kilometres an hour is a practical citywide solution that improves road safety and sets the foundation for future progress, i.e. future reductions even further in the speed limit. They're telling you in black and white exactly what they're going to do if you put up with this current proposal. I can't make it any clearer. What area of the city would the proposed expansion of 40 kilometre speed zones relate to? Speed reductions would apply to all neighbourhoods in the city: Central Perth, West Perth, East Perth, Claysbrook, Crawley, Nedlands and Northbridge. So if you are in WA, specifically in Perth, or you know anyone in Perth, please look this stuff up, because this is what they're pushing right now. It is happening right now. Now here's the problem though. By their own admissions, 50 kilometre an hour zones have been considered practical, okay, in most suburban streets around Australia for decades. Okay, even those 50 kilometre zones were only introduced in the late 90s, early 2000s. So before that, it was 60 k's an hour. They only dropped it to 50 25 years ago. But for the last 25 years, it's been very practical to have 50 kilometre zones in urban areas. Yet now, when we've got even safer cars with more things like ABS, collision avoidance system, airbags, and all the rest of it, now magically it's only practical to have speed limits of 40 kilometres an hour. Mark my words, people, once they drop it to 40, then they're going to drop it to 30, and where on earth does it end? Again, just walk on the footpath, ride on the bike path, and let the cars drive on the road. It's not that hard. We don't need to keep eroding the speed limits and affecting Aussie motorists. Now, here's the thing. They're actually introducing similar 40 kilometre hour speed limits across the entire state here in Victoria. Yes, you heard that correctly. It does not matter what road, highway, or even freeway you're on. You're only going to be allowed to drive at a maximum of 40 kilometres an hour whenever you basically pass any other vehicle that has some kind of flashing lights activated. So please, if you're in Victoria, or if you're ever going to travel to Victoria, make sure you read this article. This is what they're doing. Here's what it says. Motorists in one Aussie state will have a new speed limit to stick to from July 1. Drivers in the state of Victoria will be required to slow down to 40 kilometres an hour or less when passing a greater number of roadside services personnel from July. The new law sees the 40 kilometre an hour speed limit, which already applies to roadside police, fire and ambulance vehicles when their emergency lights are flashing, expand to now also include tow trucks and roadside assistance vehicles, as well as traffic management and incident response workers. The new law essentially means motorists must slow down to 40 kilometres an hour for any vehicle stopped on the roadside with red, blue, magenta, and now yellow flashing lights. Fines of up to $961 apply for drivers for Victoria's $5.2 million licence holders who do not heed to the new law once it comes into effect from July 1, 2025. Incident response, roadside assistance and breakdown towing vehicles are there for us when we are in need. This change acknowledges the risks they take and our commitment to keeping them safe, Victorian Roads Minister Melissa Horne said in announcing the new rule. It is the responsibility of all drivers to familiarise themselves with this road rule and to always slow to 40 kilometres an hour past responding vehicles for the safety of workers and all road users. The new rules apply to drivers in every lane on multi-lane roads. So if you've got a 4-lane freeway and someone's sitting over in the emergency lane, which of course is what emergency lanes are there for emergencies. No, if you're 4 lanes across, you still have to slow down to 40 kilometres an hour. I mean, this is absolute insanity. But do not apply to vehicles travelling on the opposite side of a divided road. Oh, well, praise the Lord for some common sense. Drivers are also not required to wait until the next speed limit signpost to increase their speed beyond 40 kilometres once past the emergency vehicles and workers. Victoria had the highest number of road deaths, 281, behind New South Wales 340 and Queensland 302 in a record Australian road toll in 2024. So all the new fines, all the new cameras, all the new road safety initiatives that they introduced in 2024 had absolutely zero effect on the road toll. It went up. And what do they want to do? They want to reduce speed limits even more. They want to increase enforcement, and they want to hope that that's somehow magically going to reduce the road toll. As I've said a million times before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. It was the 4th consecutive annual increase in the number of deaths and the highest figure recorded at 1,300 on Australian roads in more than a decade. So more fines issued, more revenue raised than ever before, and yet it was the highest road toll across the country in over a decade. Okay, if you don't see this for what it is yet, I just don't know how to explain it any more clearly to you. Okay, but this insane new introduction of 40 kilometres an hour, no matter what road you're on, just because there's some flashing lights on some kind of emergency vehicle, is an absolute nightmare in the making. I mean, we've all seen the absolute tragic results of these insane overbearing approaches in the past that only cause more harm than good. The truck driver, okay, that mowed down 4 Victoria police officers just a few short years ago on the Monash freeway because he was forced to slow down from 100 k's an hour to 40 k's an hour. Okay? This is just nuts. Now, please don't get me wrong. Okay? Absolutely, it is important to slow down and especially, move over and give a little bit of extra room, okay, around these emergency vehicles in those situations. But you can't expect people to slow down from 100 k's an hour to 40 k's an hour safely without some sort of consequences. Okay, these people just don't think these things through. And honestly, I'm genuinely shocked that they didn't learn their lesson after that horrific incident, and instead they've chosen to double down on this new rule. I mean, look, at the end of the day, only time will tell if it actually protects more people or harms more people, but personally, I genuinely doubt that it's going to improve road safety one iota, but I guarantee what it will do, and that is generate a lot of extra additional income or revenue if police choose to operate speed enforcement at those times, because again, it's all about the money. Now, speaking of money, I spoke on my last video update about the Aussie businessman who was grilled over what his source of wealth was by the Commonwealth Bank and how much cash he was holding at home with threats of closing his account if he didn't answer. Well, it seems like after that article went out, a whole lot of people have actually written in, and he's not the only one that is being bombarded with these questions, and a lot of people are very concerned, and now the mainstream media has finally cottoned on to the fact that the banks are actually seriously overstepping their boundaries when it comes to supposedly preventing money laundering and terrorism. So here is the article that, again, I urge you all to go and read so you can see what they're trying to excuse and how they're trying to get away with it, and as always, how to hold them to account. So this article is entitled, "How much should banks really be asking about your cash withdrawals?" A number of Commonwealth Bank customers have come forward with complaints about prying questions. The CEO of the Financial Crime Watchdog has sought to clarify the extent to which banks should be asking customers for details on cash withdrawals. The comments come after customers complained online about the Commonwealth Bank of Australia quizzing them on details regarding cash withdrawals and their source of wealth, with the threat of account freezes and closures if the information was not provided. The Commonwealth Bank told the Epoch Times that the Australian banks had to comply with the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing Act of 2006. All banks operating within Australia are required to collect, verify and maintain customer identification information, a spokesperson said. In the same way that we need to comply with regulations when a customer first opens an account, we also need to comply with current law regarding the maintenance of their identification information. That's all it is. It's maintenance of identification. Are you still going by this name? Or, for example, are you married and you've taken on another name? Are you still living at the same address? Is your email address still the same? Have you changed your phone number? That is the information that they have a right to. Nothing else. That is identification information. Okay? And while it's true, the Act does not require banks to deny services or freeze accounts, according to Australian Transaction Reports and Analysis Centre, AUSTRAC, nor does it stipulate what types of questions to ask customers. So when the banks tell you, oh, we have to ask these questions because of AUSTRAC, no, AUSTRAC are telling you don't have to ask those questions. They don't specify what types of questions you need to ask at all. They simply say that you need to maintain customer identification information. Name, address, email address, phone, that is it. The Act requires banks to develop risk-based systems and controls tailored to the nature, size and complexity of interactions proportional to the level of money laundering, terrorism financing or serious crime that could be committed. If you're going to the ATM and you're taking out a couple of $100 a day, okay, they have no grounds to be asking you all these other questions. That is absolute insanity. How a financial institution mitigates those risks is up to them. Banks do have an obligation, however, to ensure customers are who they say they are and to carry out additional verification checks if suspicions are raised. Now I'll say it again because this is key, people. The banks have an obligation to ensure that customers are who they say they are and to carry out additional verification checks if suspicions are raised. If there are no suspicions raised, they have no right, okay, to ask you any questions. All right? So, here it is spelt out for you crystal clear. If the banks start asking you prying questions, you just ask them this. Do you have a suspicion of something untoward regarding the activity on my account? I'll say it again. Do you have a suspicion of something untoward regarding the activity on my account? If not, then all they are able to do is confirm your identity, which is just name, address, phone number, email, basic stuff. Now, if they say that yes, they do, then you simply ask them this. Please confirm what your suspicions are based on, and I will gladly address that for you. And that should alleviate 99% of the issues immediately. Now, where you might possibly, depending on the bank you're dealing with, have an issue is if you regularly take out a lot of cash. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, not because it's illegal in any way, but it's because the banks are pushing so hard for people to go cashless, and they want to know who's not complying with that agenda and, of course, why, so that they can fix it. Now, the first step towards that, of course, is getting customers to embrace this digital banking concept rather than relying on cash. Now, as this next article and final article that I'm about to go through details, the serious push that the ANZ Bank is now engaging in to force everyone to adopt and use their new online digital platform. So here's the article. So if you or anyone you know banks with ANZ, then I urge you to look this up. A new ANZ boss flags major digital shift for 7 million banking customers. This will change. Millions of ANZ customers will soon be migrated onto ANZ Plus, the bank's new digital platform. ANZ's new CEO, Nuno Matos, started in the top job this week and flagged plans to accelerate the move, which will be the future destination for all retail customers. ANZ Plus launched in 2022, and since then the bank has been building out features and products for more than 1 million customers on the platform. That includes announcing it will roll out fully passwordless web banking from mid-2025. Mid-2025 is pretty much now, people. This is what they're pushing for right now. I would like to see it in front of every customer tomorrow, he said. In March, the major bank said every new customer would join the bank through its Plus platform by September next year. That's how short a window they're dealing with. It then plans to run its entire retail bank on Plus by 2029. The entire banking, every single customer, by 2029, all digital. With 6 million existing ANZ customers and 1.2 million Suncorp Bank customers from last year's acquisition to be moved across. Okay, that is what they're pushing for. Why are they pushing so hard for this to happen, you might ask? Here is why. Matos will be paid a base salary of $2.5 million per year for the new job. The Portuguese banker will also be eligible for a $2.5 million short-term bonus and a $3.4 million long-term bonus in his first 1 full year at ANZ. It's all about the money. As I've said more times than I can possibly count. All they want to do is cut costs no matter what, so that the CEOs can earn these insane salaries, completely ignoring what their customers actually want. So as always, I urge you, please, okay, speak with your feet. If you do not agree with these types of changes, then take your banking elsewhere. Remove all your money, close all your accounts, and take it to another bank or banking type institution that isn't implementing all these types of changes. So this is, of course, again, the perfect time to remind everyone about Jason Bryce's petition. That, of course, is the one to legislate a formal cash and banking guarantee in this country. As always, there should be a link going up in the comment section. Otherwise, just do a Google search for formal cash and banking guarantee, and that will provide the link to the petition. On that point, please make sure you also join our Call Out Cashless Businesses Facebook group. We are coming across more and more businesses that are flat out refusing to accept cash. We want to let everybody know who those businesses are so that they can avoid them at all costs. If businesses are not going to accept cash as a payment, then you do not want to do business with them. End of story. And of course, be sure to join the sister group to that, which is the Cash is King discussion group. And please share those ideas around far and wide so people understand what the true issues with that cashless agenda push really are all about. All right, so just before I finish up tonight, I want to remind everyone that our upcoming fines, vehicle and dealing with police webinar is filling up extremely quickly. There's now just over 1 week to go. It's not this Sunday, it's the following Sunday, so 1 and a bit weeks. Given the popularity of this event so far and the fact, of course, that it is limited to just 100 attendees, it will almost certainly sell out. So please, if you want to know all about how to successfully challenge all manner of unjust and unlawful fines, if you want to learn the truth about vehicle registration and why it may in fact be unconstitutional, as well as understanding exactly what to say and do and what not to say and do the minute that the blue and red lights come on behind you, then I urge you, please secure your place at our upcoming fines webinar. Again, it's on Sunday, the 1st of June. There should be a link going up in the comments. Otherwise, just look in the description. You can also check out our seminar page. Just go to knowyourrightsgroup.com.au, click on the seminar tab, and that will list all of our live events, our webinars, our actual face-to-face live events for this year. All right, so finally, as I always do, I'm going to finish off with the latest memes to get people thinking, as well as some feedback from one of our members. So this was sent through to us from Mark. And look, we say these kind of things all the time, but the fact that it's now coming from our members really does hit that point home, and I urge you to take note. So this is what Mark says. Hi Mike, I wanted to share something with you. Recently I had a sort of epiphany. I've been riding my newly purchased Vespa for the last 6 months and doing some regular training with Honda Australia Riding Training, which is the HEART program. The knowledge and skills learnt from them is absolutely invaluable. During an on-road course last week, I was critiqued by the instructor, stating I was going too slow, and he reiterated the importance of keeping with the flow of traffic for my safety. I was surprised to hear this, as I thought I was doing the speed limit, so I decided to check my speedometer against a couple of GPS phone app speedos and found that my Vespa speedometer was around 9 kilometers per hour slower. I bought a GPS speedometer, calibrated it to the phone app and installed it on the Vespa. These series of events got me thinking about the information in the Aussie speeding fines books and points about driving that you often make. The motorcycle road training has really ingrained safety in me. I am responsible for my life on these two wheels, regardless of who is in the right on the road. And safety is achieved by important necessary skill sets. For example, I need to leave a 3-second gap behind the car in front of me. I need to be constantly scanning what's going on ahead, behind, and to the sides of me. I need to make sure I take corners at the appropriate speeds to stay in control of the bike. Every corner is different, and therefore every corner needs to be taken at a different speed. Sometimes the road is wet and sometimes it's dry. It's my call. I need to be able to mentally make the right decisions and be physically able to execute them. That takes practice. It suddenly dawned on me that the speedometer and speed limits should only be used as guides and recommendations. Hello, which is all that they ever used to be when they first came out. In my opinion, I cannot ride my scooter safely and skillfully if I'm constantly focusing on the speed limit. Hello. My decisions and actions as a rider is what counts. If I ride in a stupid and reckless way and endanger other people's lives as well as mine, then I shouldn't be allowed to be on the road. The good training I receive in knowing what to shoot for is what is going to keep myself and other people safe, not merely obeying a speeding sign. It's all about common sense and skill. Exactly the same driving a car. Like you've said many times, if the government forced people to get good training when doing something wrong on the road, then the road tolls would diminish. All the best, Mark. So it's fantastic when our members write to us and they have these, aha moments or epiphanies, whatever you want to call them, and they realise that everything we've been teaching people for the last 10, 15 years makes absolute 100% sense. And if everybody could get this for themselves and then start acting together collectively, that is how we're ultimately going to be able to make the difference that we really need to make in this country. All right. So a couple more to finish off with. Now, this is about the good old windmills. So all of those that still believe in clean energy or green energy from these windmills, have a listen to this. Who noticed the small announcement that Australia Blue, the first wind farm, is shutting down after 20 years? Situated in Western Victoria, the closure is for financial reasons. The turbines have to be replaced and it is unaffordable to do so. The alternative is also unappealing as it requires the farm to be demolished. The cheaper of the options is to demolish and restore the land. There is no way of recycling the blades, so they will go to landfill. The metalwork to scrap, and the 20,000-tonne foundation will have to remain on the ruined farmland. It's interesting to note that the returns from this installation after 20 years are less than the expenditure, which goes to illustrate the massive con job that this green and free energy hype has been. Enough to make even that fool Bowen to weep. 20 years of not covering its own construction carbon footprint. The land it's built on was grade A farmland that now, due to the pylons, 20,000-tonne foundations can't even be used for cattle grazing. The blades go to ground fill because they can't even be melted down. Okay, this is how this ridiculous, this clean energy, green energy con is. Please do not buy into it. Okay, I've already got some articles lined up for my next video update that's going to even hammer this point even harder. So make sure you tune in for that. All right, a couple of memes just to finish. This one came through the other day, and I thought that was quite humorous. The tariffs are working so well that even the Pope is now made in America. Yes. And this one is very short, sweet, and sadly directly to the point. Government announces plans to save you from threats that they actually created. Let's not forget that. Problem, reaction, solution. I've spoken about that concept many times before on this video. They create a problem, everybody has the emotional reaction, and then the government swoops in and creates the so-called solution, which in turn, of course, only ends up causing more problems to make you more reliant on the government. All right, and the final one that I want to leave you with is a post that's been doing the rounds from Elon Musk. And it says, you watched the Hunger Games and you sided with the resistance. You watched Star Wars and you sided with the resistance. You watched The Matrix and you sided with the resistance. You watched Divergent and you sided with the resistance. You watched V for Vendetta and you sided with the resistance. When it's fiction, you seem to understand, yet you refuse to see it when it's the reality that you're living in. This is so true today. It is going on right now, right around us, and people, for some unknown reason, just don't see it. If you've sided with the resistance all the way along through all those movies, you need to stand up and do that now, today. So, I'm going to leave things there for tonight. As always, I do urge you to make use of all the various resources that are available to you. To please get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. That is what we need people to do. As always, there's plenty of completely free information on our website, on the other websites that we recommend. These videos, again, completely free to watch on our BitChute channel, our YouTube channel, and also on the videos tab on our Facebook page. But again, Facebook are deleting them after 30 days. Apparently, they don't want people seeing them after that amount of time. Wonder why. Okay, so please make sure you like and subscribe to the BitChute channel or the YouTube channel so you can keep following us there. Our radio shows every second Tuesday, completely free to listen to between 8 and 10 p.m. If you miss one show, we do replay it the following week. We also have podcast membership where you can listen to all of our past shows over the past 10 years. It costs less than $5 a week to join up as a podcast member. So please do make sure that you do that. It is affordable for everybody, even those who are struggling financially right now. And there's so much good information on those podcasts, and especially this week's show regarding that WHO pandemic treaty. Now, if you want to go above and beyond that, please make sure you grab our book, The Essential Step-by-Step Manual for Understanding and Exercising Your Rights. That Aussie Speeding Fines book that I've spoken about many times before for successfully challenging all manner of unjust and unlawful fines. And of course, we know a lot of people are genuinely struggling financially, so please grab that Bank Secrets book. Perfect for challenging all unsecured loans. That's your personal loans, credit cards, those sorts of things. You can get these individually. There's links in the description. You can get them as part of the combo pack. You do, of course, get that tote bag included, completely free of charge, as an extra little bonus. Don't forget, the cool weather is coming now, so grab your caps and beanies. The beanies especially will keep your head warm. People see the logo, they come up, have a chat. It is a great way to meet like-minded people. Now, as I said, our fines, registration and dealing with police webinar is coming up. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, 1st of June. Make sure you sign up for that. If you can't make the webinar or our live events for some reason, then please make sure you grab a copy of our home study course. It is a complete recording of one of our 2.5-day live events. There's 17 DVDs. You can pause, rewind, fast forward in the comfort of your own home. There's a CD with all the documents that we use ourselves. There's 3 custom-made workbooks, so you can write notes next to every single slide from every single presentation. It is a brilliant resource that you'll come back to again and again and again over the years. So I'm going to leave things there. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Again, no live show on Tuesday, but we will be replaying last week's show, or this week's show. And of course, we will be back next Thursday night with another important live video update Until then, take care.